Picked the wrong week to quit sniffing glue.
Well, howdy do. It is Friday night again, and it's time to start another weekend of working on the kits that I've got in front of me. It is Halloween weekend. And while I don't anticipate any ghouls or goblins showing up at the house, our road just isn't set up for that. I am going to be working on the spooky Slimer. I did some work earlier in the week on Tuesday, or I guess last night anyway, and I'm going to cut that in after this introduction, and we will then catch back up to where we are right now. The pod is coming along quite nicely. Again, you'll see some old footage, and then we'll cut back to where we are. Okay, so it's Thursday night, and it's the start of my unofficial start of my modeling weekend. And what I wanted to do first, right off the bat, I wanted to do the silver highlights on the pod. You can see the tippy top there is silver, and I painted the inside of those indents silver and the ridges on those bits silver, and I just basically touched up the silver all over the place. And being that it's silver and it is enamel, I have touched it, and then I am going to leave it alone for many days. I will not come back to this probably until, well, at least tomorrow night. It's like I've got a little speck of green paint on it, believe it or not, and that happened because I was sitting it in the other room. It was sitting next to Slimer as I was painting him, and it got some errant dots of green paint on it. So speaking of Slimer, let's go pick up to see where we left off on him, or where he is now, because I've done some work since the last time you saw him. And here you can see done quite a bit of work since the last you saw him. Most notably got the top choppers in, and I've put some base coat of the flesh colored or tan color, it's still wet, in the mouth, and started putting some of the Bondo putty over top of the spot putty, the glazing putty over top of the Bondo, and touched up that seam a little bit. And I've started to paint in some contrast. You can see a lot of that will get focus. Come on, focus. There you go. A lot of that will of course get painted top, dry brushed over, but starting to pre-shade some shading in. So that's basically where we is, but both hands are on, all the teeth are in, the tongue is not in yet. Of course that'll be the last thing to get attached, but that's where he is. And this is where we are. Right now the pod is ready for, let me do some crafty editing here. Ooh, let me change the color balance. And it's Friday evening, and I'm getting back to work on Slimer, and you can see I've roughed in some rough colors with the big brush. I haven't gone in and start refining anything, but you can see the teeth are more defined than they have been, and the gums are a better color, and you can see some remnants of spot putty where I have gone over the seams and spot puttied them, and now I have put some primer sealer on them and a little bit more spot putty. So we go round and round it like this until we're done. But I wanted to get some rough colors in on his face particularly, just to show what it's going to look like. And now I'm going to go read up on how to use acrylic paint in an airbrush. And this is where we are on the pod. It's looking very nice. I'm going to do some last minute touches of the white, and then I am going to give it a gloss coating, a heavy gloss coating that will allow me to put the decals on. So I'm going to gloss coat it and let it dry overnight as soon as I do the white touch-ups. Okay, she's ready. She's ready for decaling. So next thing I need to do is give it a good gloss coating and let that gloss coating set up good and hard before I put the decals on. But the most important thing before I gloss coat it is I have got to cover over the window. Not everything in here, but just the window. I do not want to get any gloss coat spray on that plastic because it will mess it up faster than you can whistle Dixie. So let's get that covered up and then get a good glossing on this puppy. It's decal time. That's screwy belly hooey decal time. Yes, we're going to do big showy things today. And the first one I'm going to put down is the warning that goes right there. Why not start with the most obvious thing you can? And then I'm going to do the bolts on the back of the door and kind of work my way around. Do the back side kind of first and then turn around and do all the little tiny ones on the front. Well, congratulations, we have explosive bolts. And unfortunately that defect in the O is on the decal. There's a little scratch that's in the decal, so I may go back in and see if I can touch that with some red paint and just cover it or finish up that O. And I've seen some different interpretations of where the explosive bolts go. Some people put the top row way up here, and I chose to put mine down on so that it is this whole raised plate is where the explosive bolts go. I've seen it both ways. Both ways look good, but that's just the way I've intended to do it. Now, I think if you look on the inside, they don't quite line up. I think on the inside, I did go toward the top of the door, but I just think it looks better centered on that raised plate. Now I'm going to do all of the fine bits that go here. Okay, using this handy shot from the Blu-ray, you can see that rectangle next to the door should be solid. Now, I'm not going to fault Paul for not doing that, but given at the time he probably didn't have a Blu-ray reference to go by. But there is the detail that goes to the right-hand side of the door, and that top line should actually have been in red. But again, I'm not going to fault Paul for not having a Blu-ray back before they probably made Blu-rays. But you can really see how much fine print there is on this ship. Let me see if I can let me back that up a little bit. All kinds of detail there. You can see the tiny type above the foot step and above those two, I guess they're forward engines. And then there's the white detail on the back hatch that I need to paint in.
Open the pod doors out.
Notice all the explosive bolts. So things you learn. Okay, so carrying that over to this model, you would see that that top line should be red, or there should be a red line there. And I did my best to keep this line straight, but it's wanting to bow. And as is the problem typically with pinstripes, you have to balance the idea of not putting as much carrier film around it so that you minimize your yellowing, and you balance that against, well, you're not going to have a lot of support for the shape, so you kind of split the difference. But in the perfect world, this decal would continue down and include this bit as part of the rectangle. Now I'm going to put the tiny text over the door, over the engines and that footrest. And then I will come back and touch the highlights on that door, the white parts. Well, this is the back. I'm going to break this into 4 sessions. The back decals are all on, and I should say that we are down to the fine print. That's that little step. Look at that. Look how good these decals are. That you can read the word step that tiny. And it's refreshing after building all these Galactica kits where it says no step, no step, no step, to see something that says yes, proudly declaring that this is a step. I'm going to let this sit and let my nerves settle because that was some nerve-wracking work. And then I'm going to do the sides, including these, which are going to be tricky, getting them into that recess. Do the sides and then come back and finish up by doing the front. And then we'll be ready to let it sit for a good long while before I spray over top of them. But yeah, I've got some little miscellaneous stuff to do on both sides and the front. But I am going to go get some lunch. It's been a long day so far. Oh, these are so much easier to put decals on when you can pull them off and work on them flat instead of working on them in place. I got that pesky one in the indent, which I had to cut to make fit, somewhat shorten it, which is almost a shame because this is the signature decal, and by that I mean this is the one that when that crafty Paul was making his decals, he was careful to sign, because if you'll notice, there's Atom City, Atomic City for Scott's company, and there's PGH, which I'll bet you means Paragraphics, for Paul. So I'm not going to begrudge the guy the chance to sign his work. But one earmuff done. Now I move over to the more troublesome earmuff because it's in place. Okay, so I cheated a little bit. I started putting these ones up front here with the caution. And I noticed saw the instructions. It says there's one that goes, where's my finger? There you go. One that goes on either side. Well, Paul, bless his pointed little head, gives you multiples of the decals on the sheet, recognizing that the script is so small that you're liable to lose one or two or something might get wrinkled. So of the very small text, he gives you more than one copy. So I decided to take one of them and put it back here. Can you remember what I was saying about the first line of it needing to be read? The first line of this text, where's my pointer? There you go. The first line of that text needing to be read, so I just put another decal next to it that had the first line being read. So that satisfies my accuracy itch. So let's go and put this troublesome one in here because I don't believe that decal is going to fit the area that Scott has aligned for it, so he may have to do some cutting. And I've got all of the side decals on, all those lovely bits of tiny text. All I've got left are these, which are numbers 18, come on focus, 18 through 22, which are out of focus, which are the things that go right up in here. And then we'll be done with the decaling and I can let it sit overnight. Yay. Almost there. And there are the tiny lettering. Tiny decals. At this point, it doesn't really matter what they say, even if you could read them. That's just the fact that they're there. And with that, I believe we are finished with the decals. Now, there are one or two that I left off, mostly because I'm a big old chicken, and mostly because they're thin. They're just lines that I think are supposed to go around these little, what I'm calling engines, but what the decals call, system purges, these guys. They're supposed to have wrapped little fine lines. I'm not going to do that. That's just a little bit beyond my skill set. So I'm going to leave those alone, but I'm going to sit and watch this dry and not do any more touching to it for the rest of the evening. I'll let the decals all dry in You can see all those pretty decals. And let those dry in for the rest of the evening. And as well as letting the paint here kind of dry. And I'll come back to it tomorrow. You can see the overly weathered or the overly stained nose in here. What I'm going to do is start to paint over that. But I've been working on the teeth and kind of playing with the gums a bit and getting some final paint on them. And you can see the arms have been painted since the last time, and I've went in and put the dark contrast in. And now I'm going to kind of dry brush up over that and put the lights in. Well, I swear what difference it makes when you have the right tools. This is an Iwata. I swear by Iwata brushes. I use them every day. There's a little bit of a filter on there, but jacked up to a nice compressor, not a little hobby compressor. It couldn't handle the stress. But it's not seeing all of the subtle shades and tones that are actually there. It's kind of flattening out the paint job, but trust me, you can see some of the highlights there. I put more paint on with this in 10 minutes, and it's a smoother job using less paint than I'm sure I did all of last night with the brush. And it's probably dry. Yep, it's dry because it's been airbrushed on there, and it didn't take forever to dry. But what it basically went in and did is put all the contrasts back in. It's really a lot more subtle than you're seeing. Like that lip is really a yellow-green. But I've got the darks in, and I'm going to leave this go for this evening and then come back and hit it tomorrow afternoon with the yellow highlights. And I think and then I'm going to go in with a smaller airbrush and do the gums and things like that. The airbrush is really making the difference. There, maybe you can see, well, it looks kind of streaky back there. It really isn't. That's something that the camera's doing. I don't know why. But the paint isn't really that contrasty. Okay, well, I'll leave them out here for a few minutes and then bring them in. Well, good afternoon. It's Sunday, and it's a little bit nasty outside, which means I can't take Slimer out on the porch to do any large format painting. Doesn't mean I won't work on them. I just can't do what I wanted to do. But it forces me, I tell you, physically restrains me into doing the thing that I wanted to do all this time, which is to finish this pod. This morning I got up early because of the time change. I had an extra hour that I didn't think I had, so I put a coat of clear flat over all of the decals to knock down the toy-like appearance. It still looks good and appliance-y clean, and all the white is nice and sharp, but it doesn't look like a big old glossy plastic toy. So now that has done and has had a chance to dry, I'm going to attach it to the base. And then after the attaching to the base, there is only the tiniest of details that really need to be addressed once it's attached to the base. There's still some tiny white touches of paint that I need to do, but rather than handle it, I can do that while it's up on the base. And I need to cut 4 new, I'm trying to pick it up here, 4 new ones of these, which are the spotlight covers. And I can cut some vinyl and make some more circles out of that, which I need to do for that. And it's going to allow me to do the other project that I'm going to do today, which I can do inside. And that is to paint the mouth and the eyes on Slimer. Maybe not all of the eyes, but at least get them roughed in. So let's get this attached to the base, shall we? This desk, it's a mess. A mess, I tell you. I need to, and there's the pod, I need to clean up some of this crap and get it ready for get the soldering iron out and make those connections. So let me spend 10-15 minutes trying to clean this mess up while the soldering iron is heating up. Okie doke, here are the wiring circuits from way back when. The black is the common to all of them, and then these are the 3 circuits. Get a good look at the bottom of this ship, ladies and gentlemen. This will be the last time you see it, because now I'm going to plunk it down onto yon willing and eager base. Okay, so next to the last time you'll see the underside of the kit. I just wanted to show you that I have put shrink tubing on all 4 of the wires, and I am ready to, and I tested it off camera just to make sure, but I'm saving it for dramatic effect. So I'm going to put a little dollop of epoxy on the bottom of this and set it down. Okay, this is the big moment. I wish I had the old 2001 theme music ready to go, but I don't. The kit is on the stand. Yes, there will still be some touching up to do. I have yet to put these lenses in, but I wanted to show you what it looks like. I've turned off the fluorescent lights so that you can get the full impact of the lighting. There's the spotlights and the howl light up front. Very, very nice, and you've not seen those without any sort of covering over them since we first began, so that's quite the thing. And there's the console lights. The floor lights. Disco pod. Turn that off. And the red lights. Let's turn those floor lights off, make it easier to see. There's the red lights and the console lights. Let me turn off the floor. There's just the red lights going on in there. And dark again. Red lights, dark. Console lights, dark. Spotlights, dark. And the floor. Let's do the floor, and I gotta label these things. There's the floor and the spotlights. That's probably the way it would be most displayed, or probably without those, but with the without those, but with the floor and the inside lights. And let's pop off the side and take a look at how she looks from the inside. There's Dave. Say hello, Dave. And since I spend so much time on it and I want to show it off, there's that troublesome door. Here's the door all opened up. Let me turn it around. There you can see the back of Dave. La-di-da, la-di-da. Now as the epoxy dries on this, I'm going to go around and touch. There's some spots back here on the white that I need to touch again. And I'm going to put some Future over the front window to clean that up a little bit. It got some smudgies on it, and I'm going to clear that up by putting some Future on it. Okay, admittedly, the toughest part of any portrait painting or any physical painting is painting the eyes. And what I'm doing here is trying to position where I think the pupils should be. And this is a technique that I've come to trust from using my templates on the old Viper kits. And it is you put the positive where you want the thing to go, and then you put the mask around that, and then you peel out the bit you're going to paint. But what I'm doing with this is it's allowing me to get their size right. His eyes, if you're going for the cartoony Slimer from the cartoon, then you want to make his pupils really large, but I'm going based more off the movie, obviously, and his eyes were smaller inside of the pupil. Now, don't be fooled by any of these colors. This is just the orange of the vinyl, and I have not quite refined the shape of the outer shape of the whites there. So what you're maybe not seeing is the full extent of the whites. So I have to figure out, A, are these pupils too small? And if they are too small, how much bigger do I need to make them? And B, this also helps me line up my sight so so the guy isn't cross-eyed. And I can move this guy around, move the pupils around until I get a look that I'm happy with. I think I want to go a little larger on the pupils, or the irises, I'm sorry. The pupils themselves will be inside there, but the iris, I think, needs to be a tad bit, just a little bit larger. I think what I need to do is paint in the extents of the outside of the eye so that you can get a better idea. Okay, unlike the eyes of Slimer, I know these are the right size for these covers because I took them off the old one. And I'm also going to take time to put these little footies underneath each of the four corners of the kit, of the stand, because I just want to get it up off the... It makes it sit on uneven surfaces better. I don't have to slide it around and worry about it catching on something, so I'm just going to stick those, and all they are is just little felt footies with some double stick on the back of them. And there she is in all her lit glory, or he is, depending on what gender you believe the pod to be. Certainly Dave is all man inside there. Looking good, Dave. Feeling good, Lewis? Very nice. I'm going to give this a few days rest and then come back and touch some white paint on it, because yes, it still needs a little bit of white paint touched on it. Just the tiniest of specks here and there. Ta-da. Said I'd get it finished this week, and by God, I finally kept my word. Just taking some beauty shots with the, now that the table's cleaned off, and got out the green material. Like I said, there are still some tiny things to touch, to be done, but I am reveling in its finishedness for right now. Pop this earmuff off. Off. There's, hello, Davy. Still think one of the smartest ideas I had, and I don't mind patting myself on the back for it, was making this earmuff removable. No sense doing all that hard work and then covering it up where you can't see it. I mean, really. Okay, after enjoying the success of the finished pod, it is time to get down in the mouth. And I mean down in the mouth of this guy. There he is. I'm going to do some fleshy work on his gums and on the inside of his mouth, do some airbrushing, because it's way too wet outside to do any of the big body stuff. So let me gum this one to death. Okay, here's where we're going to leave Slimer for the weekend. You can see where I overshot some pink on here that I'm going to blend back into the greens and the yellows when I get back to where I can do the big spraying. This was all done with the regular airbrush, and it's tedious work at that size, let me tell you. Not nearly as much fun as when you're using the big gun. The big guns. But start working on the eyes, getting them roughed in, and cleaning up the teeth. And the inside of that mouth I need to smooth out a little bit more before I call that happy. But this is where we're done for the weekend. Boo-ah! And we're done with another weekend. You finally got the 2001 Space Pod, one-man pod done. It's done, yay! I will revisit it, as I do all of my kits from time to time, with if I learn a new technique, or if I get a new fine brush that I want to try out, I will go back and touch old models. No models are ever finished, they're only abandoned. Speaking of big guns, I got to play with my new big airbrush and do a lot of body work on Slimer this week, which went well. If it weren't for the rain outside today, I could have gotten more done, but 'twas not to be. But that was good, because I might have gotten sidetracked onto that and not finished the pod, which, like I said, I'm happy to say is done. Done, done, done. It's done. Dun, 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 dun. Sorry, I carried away. It's the day after Halloween. What do you want? So until next week, when we will be picking up Slimer and getting back to the hopper. How about that? Wouldn't that be nice? Getting back to the hopper next week and working on Slimer some more. So until next week, be good to each other. I'll see you back here next time.
Ray, come in, please.
I feel so funky.